I had always cherished the quiet corners of life, those spaces where the world slowed down enough for thoughts to unfurl like pages in a well-loved book. My name is Margaret Thorne, and for 35 years, I was the guardian of knowledge at the Willow Creek Public Library. I retired at 65, not because I was weary of the work, but because my body whispered that it was time to turn the page. My home, a modest Victorian on Elm Street, became my sanctuary. The study, with its floor-to-ceiling oak shelves brimming with leather-bound classics, first editions and dusty tomes from forgotten eras, was my personal haven. Sunlight filtered through lace curtains, casting golden pools on the Persian rug where I'd sit for hours, lost in Austen or Dickens. That haven began to erode 4 years ago when my niece, Clara, and her husband, Victor, asked to move in. Clara was my sister's only child, and after my sister passed from a sudden illness, I felt a duty to help. They were struggling. Victor's entrepreneurial ventures kept failing, and Clara's part-time job at a boutique barely covered their debts. Just until we get on our feet, Aunt Maggie, Clara had pleaded, her eyes wide with that familiar vulnerability. I agreed, of course. Family was family. At first, it was tolerable. They occupied the guest room upstairs, and I shared the kitchen and living areas. But Victor, with his booming voice and perpetual smirk, had a way of expanding like yeast in dough. He commandeered the garage for his projects, scattered tools everywhere, and treated my home like his kingdom. Clara, sweet but spineless, never challenged him. She'd just smile apologetically and tidy up after his messes. The real trouble started 6 months ago when Victor decided he needed a home gym. Gotta stay fit for the business world, Aunt Maggie, he'd said, flexing his arms as if I cared. Without asking, he began moving my books from the study shelves to make room for weights, a treadmill, and one of those infernal rowing machines that squeaked like a tortured violin. These old dusty things are just taking up space, he grumbled, stacking my prized collection of Victorian novels into cardboard boxes and shoving them into the attic. Clara watched from the doorway, twisting her apron in her hands, but said nothing. I protested mildly at first. Victor, those books are irreplaceable. The study is my space. He'd laugh it off. Come on, Auntie. You're retired. Read in your bedroom. It's cozier anyway. His tone was patronizing, like I was a child being sent to timeout. Each time, Clara's eyes would dart away, her silence a heavier weight than the barbells he clanged around. The breaking point came on a crisp autumn evening. I'd settled into my armchair in the study, what was left of it, with a cup of chamomile tea and a copy of Jane Eyre. The room smelled of polished wood and aged paper, a scent that always calmed my soul. Victor burst in, sweatpants slung low, towing the rowing machine behind him. Out of the way, old lady, he barked, not even glancing at me. I need the floor space for my workout. Go read in your bedroom, Auntie. This is prime real estate now. The words hit like a slap. Old lady, Auntie, dismissed in my own home. I looked to Clara, who hovered in the hallway, her face pale. Say something, I willed her silently. Defend me, defend us. But she dropped her gaze to the floor, murmuring something about dinner being ready soon. That silence, it pierced deeper than Victor's rudeness. It was betrayal wrapped in cowardice. A cold clarity settled over me, much like the one I'd felt years ago when sorting through misfiled library cards. Emotions were fleeting. Facts were eternal. I closed my book gently, stood with as much dignity as my arthritic knees allowed, and left the room without a word. Upstairs in my bedroom, I didn't cry or rage. Instead, I opened the drawer of my knit stand and pulled out a leather-bound address book. Its pages yellowed from time. My fingers found the name, Elias Grant, ESQ, a property attorney I'd met through library fundraisers. We'd bonded over a shared love of legal thrillers. The next morning, After a sleepless night punctuated by the thud of weights from below, I called him. "Margaret, it's been ages," Elias said, his voice warm and steady. "What can I do for you?" I explained succinctly the uninvited takeover of my property, the lack of a lease, the years of freeloading. "I want them out, Elias, legally, cleanly." He paused, then chuckled softly. "You've always been direct. Since there's no formal tenancy agreement, they're at-will occupants. We can issue a notice to vacate 30 days is standard. But are you sure? Family complications can get messy." "I'm sure," I replied. "Messy is what I've been living with. It's time for order." By noon, Elias had drafted the papers. I signed them at his office downtown, the pen scratching like a final decree. His associate, a sharp young woman named Sophia, would serve them personally the next day. She be professional, Elias assured me. No drama. I didn't return home immediately. Instead, I booked a room at the Hawthorne Inn, a historic bed and breakfast on the outskirts of town. It was a place I'd always admired: Victorian architecture, gardens blooming with roses, and a library lounge filled with antique books. A single room for a week, I told the clerk, paying with my credit card. As I unpacked my small suitcase, a sense of liberation washed over me. No clanging weights, no dismissive sneers. Just quiet. That evening, I reviewed my finances on my laptop. Years of careful saving from my librarian, salary and a modest inheritance had left me comfortable. But as I scrolled through bank statements, red flags appeared. Unauthorized charges, gym memberships, streaming services, even a subscription to some sports channel Victor loved, all linked to a supplementary card I'd given Clara for emergencies. My blood ran cold, not from anger, but from the realization of how deeply they'd entrenched themselves. I called the bank first. "Freeze the supplementary card and suspend all link services," I instructed. The operator confirmed. Internet, cable, streaming all in my name would be cut off within hours. Next, the utility company, temporary suspension for maintenance. By nightfall, the house would be dark in more ways than one. Sleep came easily in the inn's four-poster bed, the sheets crisp and scented with lavender. I dreamed of empty shelves, waiting to be filled anew. The next morning, my phone buzzed incessantly as I sipped coffee in the inn sunroom. Clara's number flashed first. I let it ring, then answered on the fourth try. "And Maggie? What's going on?" "There's a woman here with papers, eviction notice." "Victor's furious." "Read it carefully, Clara," I said calmly. "You have 30 days to vacate. The study is locked. I've changed the code on the door remotely. And the services? They're suspended. Pay for your own if you need them." "What?" "But we can't. Victor has work calls and the TV." "Work from a cafe," I interrupted. "Or his office, if he has one. This isn't negotiation. It's notice." Victor's voice boomed in the background, cursing. Clara whispered, "Please, and Maggie, come home, we can talk." "I'm at the Hawthorne Inn," I replied. "If you want to talk, come here." Alone, I hung up, my hand steady. By afternoon, more texts flooded in. "Victor, this is ridiculous. You'll regret this. Clara, the card isn't working." We couldn't buy groceries. I ignored them, instead wandering the inn's gardens, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot. For the first time in years, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. Clara arrived that evening, her coat rumpled, eyes red-rimmed. We sat in the lounge, surrounded by bookshelves that reminded me of my study before the invasion. "And Maggie, why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We were family. Victor just. He gets stressed." "Stressed," I echoed. "He turned my sanctuary into a sweatbox and called me old lady. And you said nothing." "Silence is complicity, Clara." She fidgeted. "He's trying. His business that's drained my accounts." I slid printouts across the table, the charges, the defaults on loans in his name that I'd unwittingly covered. Over 4 years, you've saved nothing. Instead, you've spent my money on luxuries while treating me like furniture. Her face crumpled. I didn't know about all of it. He handles the finances. Said it was investments. Investments in failure, I said gently but firmly. Clara, I've enabled this too long. It's time you stand on your own. She left in tears, promising to talk to Victor. But I knew better. Elias called later. They've hired a lawyer, some hotshot friend of Victor's, claiming emotional distress. Squatters' rights. It's baseless, but we'll counter. The next week blurred into a rhythm of in life, morning walks, afternoons reading in the lounge, evenings reviewing documents with Elias via video call. The house, I learned, had descended into chaos. Without internet, Victor's deals faltered. Without the card, their extravagances halted. Neighbors whispered. Clara confided in a text that Victor's shouting had drawn complaints. The confrontation came on day 10 at Elias's office. Victor stormed in, tie askew, Clara trailing like a shadow. This is elder abuse, he thundered, slamming a fist on the table. Elias raised an eyebrow. Hardly, Margaret is the owner. You've occupied without lease or contribution. The notice stands. Victor turned to me, his face twisted. You ungrateful old bat. After all we've done. Done. I interjected, my voice steel. You've done nothing but take. And Clara, look at this. I pushed forward more papers. Bank records showing transfers to offshore accounts, emails from creditors. Your husband's business is a gambling addiction. Slots, sports baits funded by my goodwill. Clara gasped, snatching the documents. Victor, is this true? He blustered, it's temporary. I'll win it back. Lies, she whispered, tears streaming. You've ruined us. The room fell silent, save for the tick of the clock. Victor deflated, mumbling excuses. Elias outlined terms. Vacate in 20 days, I'd shortened it. Repay $15,000 in unauthorized charges or face suit. Victor signed, defeated. Clara lingered after he left. And Maggie, I'm sorry. I was blind. Forgiveness comes with change, I said. Find your voice, Clara, or you'll always be silenced. She nodded, hugging me briefly before leaving. The remaining days passed in preparation. I donated half my book collection to Willow Creek Library, where the director welcomed me with open arms. We could use a volunteer like you, she said. I agreed. Starting with story hours for children rediscovering joy in sharing tales. On day 30, Sophia oversaw the handover. The house was empty, save for echoes. Victor and Clara had moved to a cramped apartment. Rumors said divorce papers were filed. I didn't gloat, just cleaned, repainted the study in soft peach, and restocked the shelves. Now, at 68, my life is full. Mornings at the library, afternoons in my quiet study, evenings with new friends from the volunteer group book club enthusiasts, all. Clara visits occasionally, alone, rebuilding our bond on equal terms. Victor, a faded chapter. The quiet library of my home is mine again, a testament that silence, when broken wisely, echoes loudest.